One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse with the Poetic Diva is podcast programming that reminds us of the connection between poetry and mental and emotional wellness. So whether you're a poetry enthusiast or simply someone seeking inspiration and understanding, join us as we unravel the threads of creativity and introspection, one rhyme at a time. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse podcast, where poetry meets mental wellness right here in the heart of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am your host, the Poetic Diva, and I am thrilled to embark on this poetic healing journey with you. As in every episode, we are being visited by a poet and a mental health professional. And in this episode, we are talking about dealing with depression. So what does depression look like? Does it have a sound? How does it feel? What is the difference between depression and sadness? Well, we are going to be joined by Woodson Carpenter, a poet, and mental health professional, Felicia Cotton. Let's first hear from Woodson Carpenter, his poem, Pre-Existing Condition, on One Rhyme at a Time. Woodson Carpenter is a proud Black son of Appalachia, of its mountains, hollers, valleys, and rivers. He is a son of poets, singers, players, and thinkers. He is a son of rebellion and rebuilding, enslaved people and enslavers. His hope, in remaining always rooted in his home, heritage, and history, is to become an ever more beautiful embodiment of a dream deferred. As a multi-hyphenate creative, Woodson's work is, at its core, a pursuit of beauty, often the sort that emerges from simple and mundane elements of life. Through music, poetry, and photography, he reflects the intersecting identities he and his village embody. A trained social scientist with a Master of Public Administration degree from the University of Pittsburgh, his professional and academic work is largely explored in ways in which policy, community, creativity, economics, and justice can meaningfully intersect. On any given day, you can probably find him reading, writing, and staring out the window at one of Chattanooga's local coffee shops. And if he isn't there, you might find him wandering around local green spaces. Join me in welcoming Woodson Carpenter.
Thank you. On my good days, I'm a glass half empty. I'm a bowl of Haagen-Dazs in the middle of the Mojave Desert. I am a zombie who knows he's a zombie, but already like the taste of brains. I am an asteroid the experts say probably won't strike in this lifetime. On my good days, I have more conversations with myself. I try to sweet talk my body into a turtle shell that I will want to throw in the ocean, hoping the ocean is really a black hole. On my good days, I will tell a woman, I'm not like other guys. I will say this hoping I can love her so well that God asks me for pointers. On my bad days, I will tell a woman, I'm not like other guys. I will say this knowing it is fact, knowing that I was born an old man with none of the wisdom, but all of the sad and doubt and love for cardigans. On my bad days, I am a dry riverbed. I am a question. I am the black hole. I am unable to remember the last time it wasn't hard to get out of bed. On my bad days, I kill the mockingbird and shoot that bastard twice. Once for singing all night long. Once because I wanted to join, but it didn't sound right. And it never sounds right on the bad days, but it feels so real.
Thank you, Woodson.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start off by asking, what inspired you to write this poem?
Yeah, so I think I wrote this poem probably close to a decade ago. And this probably would have been not soon after I learned that what I was experiencing was depression for the first time. So I talk a lot about, there's kind of having the name for it and being able to identify it. But then there's like the experience of it, right? So I think I really started diving back into poetry when I started getting these diagnoses and this language and really exploring what was happening in my body and my psyche, and just looking for opportunities to sort through that to figure out what does this language mean for me. How do I understand it? How is it showing up in my experience? And so I think this is one of the first poems that I wrote that really captured my experience with mental health, with mental illness, and with having just kind of a different kind of brain.
So for you, the writing was therapeutic.
For sure.
It was assisting you in understanding yourself, in understanding the diagnoses. What exactly did writing do for you?
Yeah, I think it's it's much easier for me to. I'm a slow processor, so I'm also neurodivergent, and part of that is ADHD, and part of that for me is I will get there, and usually when I get there, it's pretty nice, but it takes a minute sometimes. So I find that writing, particularly creative writing, whether that's music, which I write as well, or poetry, gives me the time and space to really lock in and figure out what it is precisely. I'm super uninterested in other people's definitions and other people's language, and so it gives me opportunity to translate, to map things out, to figure out, does that actually make sense for me? Does that word make sense for me? Does that metaphor make sense for me? And so what I experience is, and I've had the great fortune of having access to therapy in a formal setting as well. And so a lot of times it's too, right? Like, okay, this thing gets uncovered in therapy. Well, then you still have to do something
Still got to do
with
some
that,
work,
right?
your own personal work.
Right. So a lot of times it's, okay, that was a lot. Let me make sense of that. Or coming into it, right? I'm trying to unpack something, try to figure out how to communicate that to a therapist, to a counselor, so that we can, do some of that work together. And so that helps me uh, understand what I'm experiencing, and be able to do the translation. A lot of it in my experience as a neurodivergent person is like, okay, I have this experience. I'm processing it in a way that I know a lot of folks around me are not processing it. So how do I get it to a place where we can have a shared understanding that's meaningful enough to do something with?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that you are super uninterested in like other people's definition, because everybody's journey and experience is unique.
Yeah.
So I totally value that. Super uninterested.
Super uninterested.
I appreciate the personification in the poetry. It makes it like easier to connect with when you're using the tangible, physical. I am a glass half empty. Like we can relate to that, and it's purposely not a glass that's half full. It's a glass that is half empty. Will you unwrap a little bit of some of the symbolism and the personification that you used, and maybe some of your word choices?
Yeah, I think one of the things I was thinking about when I was writing this poem, and even kind of rereading it and preparing for this. I think particularly that first half is like, those are the good days.
Yeah.
On the good day, it's the glass half empty, but at least there's some water in the glass, right? And so I think what I'm processing in the metaphor is, and I tell folks this even now, having experiences with other things like anxiety, and again I mentioned the neurodivergency. It's complicated. And over time, what I found is, because depression was the thing I first had the label for, and in many ways, I've said to folks, depression kind of fits my natural mode of being a little bit more. I'm pretty laid back, pretty slow, pretty quiet, but most of the time. So part of what I was trying to communicate is, it's disruptive, but it's also comfortable and familiar in a certain way. So thinking about, the zombie who knows he's a zombie, but already like the taste of brains, right? It's not, uh, wanting to be stuck in the house is not part of my problem. Is that's what I would prefer to be doing anyway. Right. My challenge is isolating, rather than struggling with this lack of energy to do social things.
Yeah,
right.
You're embracing that,
which is part of the challenge in a way, right? But it's kind of communicating not only how that experience shows up differently, but also I think it is, especially as I get older and develop the relationship with myself and with mental illness. I think part of the journey, part of the challenge is understanding that I am not at war with a thing. It's not my depression and me
versus you.
Right. That's all me. I'm having this experience, and so how do I understand it and work with it? But I think also, it's also heavy. It's a lot, and so I think about I'm a huge space nerd. So I have a lot of poetry where space comes up, and black holes in particular are fascinating to me. So even the black hole, I think, that's not all darkness either. As I hold that, I think about, light not escaping from the black hole, but the kind of what's included in there. The implication is that there is light down in there. So as I think about throwing that turtle shell body into the black hole, right, that's not necessarily resignation, as much as it is, I need like a minute.
I get that.
I feel like I need some of that darkness and some of that space.
And there is actually a member of our studio audience who picked up on that. And they mentioned that the poem mentions someone in the first part, about a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second part, you mentioned that you were the black hole. Mm-hmm. Expound on that some.
I think it's a lot of what I was saying before is there is a strange, I think, paradox, and I find a lot of clarity, particularly in seasons of depression. And so moving from those good days into those bad days, because I think particularly in my experience, depression silences so much of the extra noise, right? Anxiety is busy. ADHD is busy.
It is.
Depression is still. And so part of that is the struggle of being a black hole, right? Because you also feel, and it's something I work on to this day, like there is and particularly being a black man from Appalachia, right? There is like some shame, there's some guilt, right? There's some the feeling of I am sucking people into this this black hole of sadness, because that's all I have to offer right now, and that's not what everybody wants. Not everybody wants to be doing this.
They don't want to be pulled into that experience,
sad stuff, right? So I think, to that extent, I would probably write that poem a little bit differently today, but it's certainly true that feeling still, it certainly still arises, right? When you, and I know I'm often encouraged to use words more expansive and varied than bad, but when you feel funky, when you feel bad, it feels bad to feel bad around folks all the time, right? And I think when you have like a chronic condition, I'm depressed a lot, right? Like I've spent probably the majority of my adult life in seasons of depression. So that adds up, it catches up with you, but as time goes on, I just don't necessarily put that value judgment on it, right? Like I can be that black hole today. And that's all right. There's a lot of dope stuff going on in those black holes.
And that's giving yourself grace. And that's important as well.
Yeah.
So another question from our studio audience: what was depression before you had a name for it?
Just wait. I think I think about being in college, and which is a point of privilege, to be able to spend as much time as I was spending in bed and for it to not have any major consequences for my life otherwise. So a lot of it, again, going back to that, I come from people, we are resilient, we are resourceful, right? We keep on keeping on, right?
Yeah.
Both as a product of the Black diaspora, but also, as somebody from the Mountain South. So I think a lot of it, again, like that shame, that guilt, that like, I want to be doing more. Overachiever, high achiever, right? I'm in these programs. I got 20 hours of classes I'm supposed to be taking. I'm on the student senate, so on and so forth. And I don't have the energy to do any of it. I don't have the energy to roll up out of this bed and feed myself or take a shower or get dressed. And I, at this point, not only unwilling and unable potentially to ask for help, not even really sure what type of help. I don't know what's going on. It's just hard to get out of bed, right? I'm just not interested in the stuff I'm typically interested in. I just don't want to go anywhere, right? So in retrospect, it's a very confusing experience. And I think it really compounds the weight of the experience to not know what's going on and to just feel off in a really severe way, and to not know what to, right? And folks are wondering where you are, right? You've been missing for days. Where you been? Like, I don't even know what to tell you. I just can't get up.
I just can't move.
Yeah. So that language, having that language, obviously does not solve the problem. But I remember when I first had a word for that, I remember just like crying and crying and crying because it now it existed, before it was just this weight. It was just this ethereal, just this abstract thing that was sitting on my shoulders.
Heaviness on you.
Indeed,
yeah. So there's a line where you say, on my good days, I will tell a woman I'm not like other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then further down, on my bad days, I will tell a woman I'm not like other guys. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to use the exact same line. For both good and bad days.
I think, so the thing that got me into poetry initially was like love poetry. So really, when I was first writing page poetry and stage poetry, it was a lot of love poems. But what's been really interesting to me in my experience is that that's one of the first places my brain goes, is like when I get the name for the thing. Oh, how does this? I automatically go back to how has this impacted my relationships, right? And that little sticky, icky, like guilt thing shows up, right? So even just a couple of years ago, I got my adult diagnosis for ADHD, right? And one of my first thoughts was like, damn, I wish I had. I'm thinking about all the things I could have done differently in all kinds of relationships, right? The things I could have asked for, the things I could have spoken to. And so I think that's part of it, just knowing that like it has a very real impact. But I think always part of my, I'm not interested in other people's language and definitions, partially because I have a very complicated experience. I have a lot of intersecting identities. And I think one of the things that I'm learning to embrace is that I'm not a different Woodson on the bad days versus the good days, but what I have energy for, how I perceive myself, how I perceive how I'm showing up in the world is drastically different. So I can hold that same thought, and on the good days, I think to myself, like, I'm a different kind of dude, and that's dope, right? And on the bad days, I'm a different kind of dope and dude, and that feels really complicated, heavy and disruptive. And I think one too is one of the things that strikes me when I'm, I think at a particular season of depression is how my vision works, like what I'm looking for. So, when it's like hoping I can do this thing, right? Like this optimism, this hope, this intention, and moving from that into like, this is just what is, right? Like that shows up for me in that distance too, right? Like I'm hoping I can do this on my good days and on my bad days. Like this is what I got. Now in the past that was, and I'm sorry. And I'm trying to move toward as I get older and, move into a greater sense of self-compassion and self-love is, we can do what we are able to do. And that applies to me as well. And so we have what we have when we have it. And so I think it's true. I'm not like, other guys.
Not like other guys.
And I like it too, because it's, there's also some like weird misogynistic, stuff in that saying as well. So part of it too.
We've heard, some of us have heard that before.
Oh yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. So also like kind of surfacing that too, that desire to, take this language, do with it what I will according to my like understanding of it, and use it in different ways. I think that repurposing, like that's like very Appalachian to me.
Yes.
Like, let me take this phrase that I think is low-key problematic. Let me put in this poem where I have a complicated relationship to a thing, and then let's see how it works out altogether.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that came to my mind when I saw that was how sometimes we mask. So even though we look the same, show up the same to people on the outside.
Oh, yes.
It's a different struggle. It's like you have no, I show up on Monday. I show up on Tuesday, but you have no idea how much more work it took on Tuesday.
Oh, yes.
Just to get out of the bed.
Oh, yes.
And to take the shower and to brush my teeth and to, like, that was so there's all these things that are happening in the background, but to the outside world, but she showed up.
Yes.
She was here.
And she smiled.
And she
He
smiled.
smiled.
Yeah. So
I asked him how he was doing. He
he
said
must
he
be
was good.
So he must be good.
He said he was good. Yeah, that's super real. I talk to folks all the time about, there are a lot of days, I spend a lot of time where I feel like I have spent the majority of the energy that I have for the day trying to get from the bed up. Yeah. And then you gotta do, right? Then I gotta be black in the world.
That takes a lot of energy.
Right. And that's different for different folks too, right? Yeah. Like for a Black Appalachian down here who moves in the way that I move, the sort of margin of error, right, that I have to show up authentically is a lot smaller than it is for other folks. So if I show up and I'm like, I'm having a bad time, and if you don't know somebody like me, or you don't really know what I'm talking about, or I don't have time to get into it, what I'm experiencing as sadness, it may appear to you as anger, right? And I can't pay the cost of anger in certain settings, right? With certain people all the time. So, in some ways, there's a lot of necessity. Right? I think about Bell Hooks, a book called Salvation, and she talks about the ways in which we love and we navigate that are a matter of survival, but that aren't necessarily healthy. And so one of my projects is bridging that gap. Like, I just want to do the healthy thing and be prepared to pay whatever, right? Because there will be costs.
There will be a cost.
There will be costs for removing the mask. But I think in the long term, those dividends, though I think in the short term may be very difficult to bear, is very worth it. But it's difficult. It's a habit. It's one I'm certainly still working on. Even the past couple of weeks, I told a bunch of people today when they asked me how I was doing. I said I'm doing all right.
I'm doing great.
And that is not true. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult habit to break, and it's a matter of safety as well.
True, because everybody can't handle our truth.
Correct. And I tell you, and then what? So now you just bummed out. And you mad at me because I told you the truth.
Right. What you gonna do?
And now I feel weird because I could have just minded my business and been at home, stayed in bed.
I could have just said I'm fine and kept it moving.
Right. Yeah.
I get that. I get that. But it does show that it's so important to realize as we are encountering other people that we don't know their struggle.
Yes.
We don't know their journey.
Yes.
And to honor that and to give Give people grace.
Mm-hmm.
Give people grace. So if you were to write this poem today, at this point in your life, because you said that you wrote it about 10 years
Probably
ago?
about 10 years ago, yeah.
What are some things that are different when it comes to your aspect of the good days, the bad days?
I think, so my first, I feel my inner critic, my inner poetic critic coming up. Like the first thing I think I would do is this would be a longer poem. I think I would dig into this a little bit more. I do like in this poem that it leaves you some room to figure out, like, what do you mean? Why are you talking about Haagen-Dazs? Like zombies. Like there's something about that kind of randomness that I appreciate, and that was kind of purposeful. But I think I would add more. That's such an interesting question. And this is just occurring to me now. Like, I also wonder if I would split it up that way. I think my desire as I continue to grow is to no longer make that distinction between these good days and bad days and move more into a space. And I'm not there. It's gonna be a minute, I think, but to move to a space where I have today.
Yeah.
And I did with today what I was able to do with today.
That's powerful.
And there
is
no good day or bad day. I think especially after some recent losses, actually. Like my father's mom died last year. We just had the first anniversary about Nikki Giovanni passing in December, and then one of my favorite poets, Andrea Gibson.
Yes, just recently they passed.
Died on Monday, and so I'm thinking about how they all showed up, and for each of them, it was very much of, which is so interesting because they're very different people. It's fascinating to think about comparing my grandmother from Big Stone Gap, Virginia to Andrea Gibson. But I think all of them, one of the things I appreciate about them and hope to be able to reflect and emulate and grow into is really just making the most of like what you have at hand. And so I think the poem that I would write today sounds a little bit more like that. I think a little bit less of the longing, and a little bit more delving into what the thing means, and what's possible anyway, right? Because the thing is, like, all of these experiences have been true, and as far as I can tell, for the majority of my life, and I made a lot happen with all of this going on anyway, right? Not having the language.
Whether it was a good day or a bad day.
Good day or bad day, right? Still showing up, still working to be present in my relationships in my community, and do stuff in the world. So it's really interesting to think about it. And I might have to sit down and go ahead and write that part too and see what comes up.
You've got to come back and share it with us if you will. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Ooh, I'm tempted to say don't. We're in that season. I'm like, you know what my address is. You can send me a text, and maybe I'll let you in, and maybe I won't.
Right.
You can find me. I don't know, all over the place. Easiest place is probably on my Instagram. It's A Woodson C, AWOODSONC. That's also my email if you want to shoot me an email. If you're cool after that, maybe I'll give you a phone number. That's probably the best place to find me. I put some poems on there occasionally, some photography, that type of thing. But and then catch me around. Come to my book club. Come to Rhyme and Chat stuff. I'll be there.
Wonderful. Yeah. Tell me about your book club.
So I partner with Solit, and we do a monthly poetry book club. And so this month we're doing Sarah Kay, No Matter the Wreckage, but really try to center the work of Black and brown poets, queer poets, and neurodivergent poets, because I find all the time those are the poets that I'm hearing from where I feel like I live in the same reality as other people, E. Cummings is great. Robert Frost is cool. I don't read Robert Frost and I go, man, I really feel seen.
Right.
So
Get that.
I want to. Poetry has done so much for me. And it feels so important, even this opportunity and being a part of Rhyme and Chat. It feels so important to be in places and spaces and do work that gives other people the opportunity to walk through that door. So it's been great, and I'll go ahead and shout out to Chelsea over there. She's an excellent partner in that work as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We thank you so very much for your time and for sharing with us.
Thank you, Marsha.
So thanks to Woodson for sharing his poem, Pre-Existing Condition, and for giving us a better understanding behind the meaning and the muse of his poetry. So, what does depression look like to you? Is it dark? Is it heavy? Confusing? Well, we are going to talk about it with our guest and mental health professional, Felicia Cotton. Before we do, it is important that I remind you that this podcast is not a substitute for therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or qualified mental health provider with any questions that you may have about your physical or emotional well-being. Now, with that being said, let's get a better understanding of dealing with depression. Felicia Cotton is a dedicated social worker with 16 years of experience in providing and improving the lives of individuals and their families in the tri-state areas. Felicia holds a master's degree in social work and has extensive experience in both clinical and community settings. She specializes in mental health support, clinical case management, micro and macro setting, and advocacy. She believes in empowering her clients through compassionate care and tailored resources and is passionate about social justice. Felicia actively works to address systemic issues and promotes equity for all. She strives to educate our community about the myths that surround our healthcare, mental health, and spiritual health. Join me in welcoming Felicia Cotton. Well, Ms. Felicia, thank you so very much for being here. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. So we just heard from Woodson, and he shared an amazing poem and was really, really transparent with us about his journey with depression and things of that nature. Give us a definition. What is depression?
Depression is something that you can't even describe.
Okay.
Because sometimes you don't have the words for it.
Yeah.
You just know you feel something different. And oftentimes when people say they're depressed, and I'm going to get a lot of critics probably for that, because if you come from a Christian background, that's a forbidden word.
Yeah.
And when it's a forbidden word, it's a word that doesn't get used. And when you hear the word depression, they hear labels. They don't hear diagnosis. They don't hear it's something that is common, not by the works you do, not by your credentials, not about who you are, who your parents are, who your grandparents, your ancestors. None of that doesn't matter. But it's something that you know that you're experiencing. And sometimes it's just hard to put in words for a lot of people who don't know how to convey that they're depressed, because you heard the saying, I'm too blessed to be stressed.
Yeah.
I'm too this, I'm too that. So you get caught up in labels. And when you hear someone say they depressed or they have a disability, because depression is a disability.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you hear that, it feels shame and guilt of something what he was saying in his poem. So I hear that quite a bit.
I had a transparent moment with a pastor friend of mine, minister friend of mine. And when I shared with them that I was going through a bout of depression, their response to me was, you just need to pray more and get closer to God.
Yes, because we have been taught that God is a healer. God can do anything but fail. God didn't bring you this far to leave you. And so I try to encourage a lot of people that God still hears you, but he also hears you as well So we sometimes have to unpack that. And when we are unpacking it with the people that doesn't understand depression, and that's all they know is coming from a biblical standpoint, a lot of people refuse to go to counseling, refuse to go to to see any type of psychiatrist because of that stigma that's attached to it.
That's true. So what is the difference between depression, true depression, and sadness?
It's where you can't even put your clothes on. Something that's a simple task. It's something just getting out of bed and you just look at the four walls and say, I don't want to do it.
Okay.
And you stay stuck. Sadness
Paralyzing.
sadness is something that you can say, I'm sad today, but it's not going to stop me from doing my everyday task. Depression will have you so far in a hole that you don't think you could come out of. And when you can't shake it and you just can't process it, because our brains process 20,000 negative words before it thinks of something positive. So it's a chemically imbalance.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when that happens, we think it's something wrong with us. So if we think it's something wrong with us, I can't tell somebody something wrong with me because they're going to look at my status. Oh, you come from a good family. How are you depressed?
Right.
I said, you have
all these wonderful things happening.
have all
How could
these
you be
wonderful
depressed?
things. You have a degree. You have all of these accolades. You have a good job. You know, why are you depressed?
Right.
So they make you feel guilty for even sharing that you're depressed. So that's the difference between depression and sadness. Sadness is something how I feel. It's emotional. Depression is more so of it's a diagnosis that a lot of people just don't talk about because we confuse the two.
I agree with that. One of the things that for me personally that draws a lot of separation is that if I can give a reason, then it's not depression.
Yes.
It's sadness. You know, like I'm sad because this happened. But depression, when I hit the valleys, depression, it just comes. There's not a because me and my friend aren't getting along. It's not a because to the depression. The depression happens. It's a state of being.
Correct.
It's not based on anything that has happened in my life. It's just, yeah. So that's one of the things that draws the difference for me. If I can explain where it's coming from, then it's not depression.
And sometimes it can be similar. And sometimes if you start peeling back some of the layers, sometimes your sadness can keep you depressed and you just don't know it.
Okay.
Because we like to mask it because society has taught us to pull up yourself by your bootstraps.
Right.
Suck it up, buttercup. But my thing is, what if you don't have boots?
Right. Okay.
So what if you have boots that doesn't have laces?
Yeah.
So how do you expect to pull somebody up by their bootstraps? Because we have been taught in society how to mask things. We've been taught how to say, you know, you shouldn't consider yourself sadness. And I hear so many adolescents where their parents say, you don't have nothing to be sad for. You don't pay no bills. Yeah. I was like, what are we teaching our young people about expressing their emotions, expressing their feelings? Just because I'm young and I don't pay bills, I don't get sad. You know, I don't get depressed. So sadness is a form of an act of. And sometimes when you're acting in that sadness, if it's not talked about, expressed about, that can lead to depression. And that's how we pack things from generation to generation, because to be truthfully, a lot of our parents grew up in an era where you couldn't express those type things. So if you was not able to express those type things, guess what you're doing when you become an adult and you start a family? It's so many people mask it for so long, and we wonder why we are losing so many people to suicide. Because they have been taught to keep themselves busy. So you don't have to think about your sadness that goes into depression. You have been accustomed to say, the busy I stay, the less sadness and depression I feel.
Right. And it's a coping mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism. And oftentimes when people get depressed, they find, like you said, another coping mechanism where it's drinking, smoking, doing illicit things. And it's not finding a healthy way of doing it. People say, well, I don't want to go to a counselor. I can't see a psychiatrist, because society has taught us through movies that when you have a diagnosis, not a label, but a diagnosis, there's something that's wrong with you. Your parents didn't teach you right. And then the parents feel the guilt because they was like, I gave my child everything. So how are you depressed? I gave my child everything. How do you have this ADHD? How do you have this ADD? And I tell parents all the time, it's not something that you done.
Right.
So and I tell them, let's stop there. It's not something that you done. It's not something you could have been doing. I said, are we looking at our kids? Are we looking at the people around us? Because sometimes it's hard to connect with somebody who suffer from depression, because then it starts making you feel like a failure because you couldn't help them.
Yeah. And in some circles, some families, some parts of our culture, there's a more negative stigma on going to seek treatment and care and counseling for your mental well-being than it is to indulge in drinking and some of those negative coping skills. That's frowned upon less than going and getting some help. So help us out and tell us, what are just a few of some of the symptoms that are indicative of of somebody who is going through some depression?
Isolating themselves from the world, stop doing what they enjoy doing. They start to withdraw back. They are trying to overachieve or conversate for things that they want to do, so they don't have to think about it. So they tend to, want to do more, provide more, perform more, do more. And those type things are really signals of someone who's experiencing depression.
So it's like extreme responses. So either somebody who's like, they're normal, they're baseline, and then you see them going into isolation, or they're veering from their normal and their baseline by doing more and I guess just keeping themselves busy and distracted from some of the things that are going on inside their minds.
And also they're not eating, they're not being involved with what they used to be involved in. And sometimes it's not as easy to pick up, because sometimes people had it very well that you don't even know that they're depressed, because as it was mentioned before, you're like one way on Monday and then another way on Tuesday. And then it was like, okay, you were just fine Monday. So how did you get like this on Tuesday? And then you're trying to figure out what happened to you on Tuesday that you didn't do on Monday. It's because people have been trained their bodies to know how to perceive and know how to act. But at some given point, your body gets tired. It gets fatigued. I'm a visual person. So just imagine if you take a sponge and you want to wipe off a countertop, you will have to have some type of moisture for that sponge to do what it's supposed to do. That's what a lot of times we do with our bodies. And oftentimes when we do that with our bodies, we start getting high blood pressure. We start having some type of fatigue. We start to have, you start to see circles when you start to see. So it's a lot of things that you can see that, someone who's withdrawing and they go into that depression because they stay in their room, they game, they doing things to not conversate. So if you're trying to communicate, there's like, they'll find something else to communicate because, quote unquote, I don't want to get that deep. So they find other avenues to keep themselves busy. So it's a lot of things. You just have to study the person that and some of the things that they're doing, and it's not something that they usually do, then that could be a sign of depression.
So if somebody comes to you, be it a friend that comes to you, or possibly even one of your children comes to you and says, I think I'm depressed. I think I'm going through some depression. What are some healthy responses for that person?
And I would say that takes a step. It's like anybody who's coming with the substance abuse. You know, you don't want them to feel guilty for expressing themselves. So I would encourage you to say, thank you for sharing that with me. I know that took a lot for you to share this with me. And I appreciate you trusting me with your feelings and how you are expressing yourself. I said, what would you like for me to do? Because sometimes we go in and problem solve and we jump in and want to problem solve. Take a scale back and say, okay, thank you for sharing. What would you like for me to do? And wait for their response. Yeah. Don't go, it's like, well, let me go ahead and call so-and-so and get, so-and-so on the phone. They just share something very vital with you.
Yeah.
And then the first thing you want to go in is try to call and get some resources in, because that's human nature, and you want to come from a good place.
We want to solve the problem. Yes. We want to fix it.
We come from a good place, but always give that person who shared that information with you and ask them a question that was like, okay, thank you for sharing that. What would you like for me to do?
Yeah, I have a dear friend, and one of the things that she says to me when I'm struggling, she'll say, how can I support you in this moment? Or how can I show up for you?
Yes, that's good.
And that means so much to me.
It does.
When she says it that way. And in a lot of cases, it's like, just be here for me.
Be
like,
there.
Yeah, like
Just
this is what you're giving me is all that I need.
Yes.
But it means so much for her to just offer to show up however I need for her to show up for me.
And that's the key thing, is showing up, because so many of us don't know how to show up because we have past trauma where it's hard for us to show up, because oftentimes we tuck or we cover our trauma. And so it shows up in other ways. And sometimes that does show up in depression because people don't feel like they can't trust anybody, and they stay in survival mode. So when you are having somebody who's shutting down, not talking, because someone, if we peel back the layers, someone in their lifetime they shared an experience or a moment, and they couldn't share because of how they responded to them.
Right. And it makes people shut down.
It makes people shut down, and they stay in survival mode, and they carry that from year to year to year. And then we realize it's like, okay, where did all of this come from? But if we really just sit back and think about the things or how we talk to people, it says a lot about how we respond to people. And sometimes if you don't know how to respond, it's okay to say, I appreciate you sharing that with me, but I don't know how to respond.
Yeah. It's okay to not know. It's okay
not to know. Yeah. And we have to get out of that saying that I got to know everything. Right. We don't know everything, and it's okay. And like you said, just showing up for that person is enough.
So for someone who has been diagnosed with depression, or who feels like they're going through a depressive state, or something of that nature, what are some coping skills, what are some things that they can do to assist them in navigating that?
Just know that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's not okay to remain not okay.
Okay.
So
not okay to stay that way.
Not okay to stay that way. It's hotlines out there that you can call. It's crisis line that you can call, because people think my situation's not a crisis. It is a crisis.
Sure.
So don't think that you have to be suicidal to call the crisis line. You do not have to be suicidal to call the crisis line. They're here to help. They are open 24 hours, 7 days a week, all throughout the holidays. It doesn't matter. But sometimes you just have to decompress. And they will help guide you into a center where you can get counseling. They'll help provide resources for you. And sometimes just giving that off your chest, it helps you to feel better.
What role do you believe, because I'm a huge proponent not only for therapy, for having a therapist, having someone outside of your circle that you can talk to about the heavy things and the light things as well. It's just good to have someone to talk to. But I also have really strong feelings about writing it out.
Oh, yes.
So how does that help a person when they're going through some challenging times to be able to express it in writing?
Writing, it helps you to process your thoughts. It helps you to get everything out without having to. Sometimes you don't have words to say, but you have a pen and a paper that you can write it down and just allow your thoughts to just flow freely on paper. And I think that is one of the best way to do it. Journal, help decompress those thoughts, help write down whatever you're feeling, good, bad, in between, or don't know. Because the more you write, the more you realize that you have something to say.
I like that. Say that one more time. The more you write.
The more you write, the more you realize you have something to say.
Yeah, so that's affirming.
Yes,
to a
it
person
is.
as well.
It is. I tell people all the time, go outside, get in nature, because the sun rays helps release that energy, when you go outside barefoot, because it's been taught, can't go outside without your shoes on, put your shoes on. But when you get connected with nature, it helps you to decompress. It helps you to, because I tell people, take a deep breath. Sometimes we don't breathe.
We don't breathe fully, do we?
We don't. We suck it in like, I can't, but it's okay. Just, I say it, do it throughout your day. Take 5 good deep breaths.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It makes a world of difference. Self-care is the best care.
Okay, so we talked earlier about some symptoms when it comes to depression. Are there any symptoms that are maybe specific to children?
Yes, and it's so, people think it may not be a depression, but it is. Stand on their phone, stand in their room, don't even want to come out. You don't even know that they there. And they stand in their room, and I always say, give their phone a break. A lot of our kids is admiring things that they wish they had or wish they could be a part of. And that creates depression because it's so much that they want to be or how to be. And sometimes their brain can't process the things that's what's real and what's not.
True.
So when they are standing in their room, they are not being involved. As the parents, we think just because we have a good relationship with them, we don't think that they're depressed. But how do we know if we don't even have the conversation?
So check in, ask, but also listen to their response.
Correct. Correct.
That's
Correct.
important as well.
Very important.
And responding in an appropriate way.
Yes.
So one last question.
Sure.
Is depression, feelings of depression, concern that you may be in a depressive state, is that something that you can work through on your own?
I would say no. We're supposed to go for our yearly checkup every year, right? We do self-examinations on our breasts, to make sure there is nothing going on. But why do we go to the doctor?
Preventative care to catch things early before they become problems?
Yes. So when you're depressed, that's considered a problem. And when you're self-diagnosing yourself, you think that I don't have a problem, so this is not a depression. So I really don't need to seek psychological help or see a counselor because it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going through a moment. We hear that a lot.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say, because I go into my general practitioner, to my doctor, I'm not sick, I'm not feeling poorly. I go in for my annual for a checkup.
Correct.
So what you're saying is that it's even beneficial for people to seek therapy, counseling.
Yes.
Don't wait until there's a problem.
Go.
Go.
We don't look at any type of depression or mental illness as a need to go. We only go when we have to go, when things is falling apart. I encourage everyone to seek a counselor. Don't just get any counselor. Find a counselor that fits for you. Because if I want to go to a surgeon, I'm not going to go to my gynecologist.
That's true. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So if anybody's want to get in touch with you, how do they connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram on Felicia Cotton and on Facebook as well.
We thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
As we conclude another insightful episode of One Rhyme at a Time, I want to thank our featured poet, Woodson, and our guest mental health professional, Felicia, our studio audience, and of course you, our listeners, for joining in on this conversation. And we'd like to hear from you. How has depression impacted your life and even the lives of those around you? Tell us in an original poem that you've written in response to this podcast, and submit your poem to rncpoetry@gmail.com for the chance to have your poem read on an upcoming episode. Depression is not a sign of weakness, but a battle within the mind. It is a reminder that we are human and that we need support and we need care. Until next time, this is the Poetic Diva. May your days be filled with inspiration, healing, and poetry. One rhyme at a time. The primary national mental health hotline for support year-round is 988. Call or text 988, or you can visit 988lifeline.org/chat to access the online chat service. This number, also known as the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, provides 24/7 access to free, confidential support for those experiencing mental health crisis or those considering suicide. You can call, text, or chat with a trained counselor. One Rhyme at a Time, unpacking the meaning and the muse with the Poetic Diva, is podcast programming that reminds us of the connection between artistic expression and mental wellness. This program has been brought to you by Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization, thanks to the financial and technical support of the Lyndhurst Foundation, Arts Build, the Community Foundation, Edney Innovation Center, and Gold Nook Publishing. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, share, and leave comments for us on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us as we continue to bring you meaningful content, one rhyme at a time.